network where we interview every job occupation, A through Z, from the trash man to the CEO, and ask them why and how they started doing what they're doing so that you can find your dream job too. I'm your host, Kojo Thompson, and today I have a very special episode with a very special guest, author Miss Amba Brown. Now, Amba Brown is known best for writing 3 books, which she has coined the Finding Your Path books, intended to help the youth specifically do just that. The 3 are called Starting School, Starting High School, and Finishing High School, which are easy to read, fun, and comfortable books that are used by child psychologists, librarians, and school counselors in more than 15 countries around the world. Amba is a certified happiness coach who holds degrees in psychology and sociology, which has earned her spots on TED Talks as well as multiple other media platforms where she has passionately sent her message around, and she's going to share with us today. Amba, how are you doing today?
Hi, very good. Thank you for the lovely introduction. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing very well. Now, guys, if you guys, noticed a similarity in accents, that is because Amba is from Australia, right?
That's it. You picked it.
Perfect. And she, and this is the second guest we will have this month from Australia. Actually, we just finished, uploading this past Sunday, Miss Carlisha Hurley, who was an actress based in LA. And she's from Australia too.
That was excellent.
Yeah, so the second guest this month from Australia, and I know I missed out on a lot on that introduction. So please, Amba, can you please fill in the gaps that I missed out?
Absolutely. I think you covered most of it, but to give a little bit more insight, I'm an Australian. Sorry, I am an Australian living in New York City, and yeah, writing is my passion. And as you mentioned, I have written 3 books, and my goal is to support youth. So it really came about because of my own experience. When I finished high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was really overwhelmed and stressed and was having panic attacks. I put all this pressure on myself. And I just, it's easy to say 10 years out that it'll be fine, but when you're in it, it's a really stressful experience. So I think what you're doing is an amazing project, and thank you for your podcast and providing the platform to give this information to those students. So awesome.
Thank you for being on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it. She reached out to us and made sure that she was on the show. So big thank you to her. Now, Miss Amba, you gave me a little brief, something in that introduction. Can you really go into detail of why and how you started writing these books and like what really made it come about?
Yeah. So after I finished school and didn't know what I wanted to do, I found my way into psychology, and I love positive psychology. So trying to speak to everyday individuals about how we can better our lives. In the past, psychology has had a lot of focus on people who were anxious and depressed, and I think it's awesome that now we're focusing more just on everyday individuals, and that's what my books aim to do, that they're resources for everyday kids, all kids around the world starting school, all kids around the world transitioning to high school, and then all kids around the world finishing school. So it's not just focusing when there's an issue or a problem. It's trying to prevent it from getting to that stage. And I'm very passionate, which is why I reached out to you in spreading this message of it's normal to be stressed. And I think it's a really important message to share, because when you're in it, you can feel like you're the only one, that there's something wrong with you, and it's just not the case. It's a normal experience through transitions to feel the unknowns, the fear, and I really want to just put out a message of it, that we can get through this and just to keep going. So that's the ultimate underlying goal. But in that, these books, why I wrote them was to try and make them fun. And they're not dense or heavy. You can flick open and there's quotes, and it's I just want to make them accessible and engaging for students. So that's really how they came about, and now I'm working on further books, but we can get into that a bit later if you like.
Perfect. Okay, so you've written 3 books for really transitioning people, in the transition phase of first off, starting school. Then we have starting high school and then finishing high school, which are really 3 really big transitional phases for adolescents. Now, what age do you think people should start thinking about, what they want to do in your youth?
So I think that's a really good question. And the reason that I start with my books with the starting school transition is not so to start thinking about what you're going to do when you're older.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I actually gave a TED talk on this exact topic around, I think that we should delete the question altogether, what do you want to do after school? Because I go into in the talk why it's actually a redundant question now, that most people are having multiple careers, that idea of just picking one thing for life, it doesn't really make sense anymore. Mm-hmm. So I want to move that shift into what individuals, what they like doing, and focusing on their interests and getting them to learn to know themselves, to be mindful of their likes, and building their resilience so that they can make their own decisions. Because at the end of the day, it's resilience and decision-making skills that come into play when we have to eventually, when they take that leap to find a job.
No doubt.
I've kind of spun your question around on its head, but I think we need to just stay open to the idea that we can keep changing, and not at one point do you have to make that a one final choice.
I agree. So what I'm getting from that is, as life progresses on, you find different interests. You're not just bound to one once you leave high school. You just have to pick one, and that's it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that if we can start encouraging kids from a young age, even in primary school, to focus on what they enjoy doing and be mindful of that, then it's going to become a lot more obvious when they're in high school and they start picking majors what they should pick. Because I even remember not being confused by that, and because I just kept putting this pressure on this objective final decision that it's not even, you don't even have to do that. So focusing on interests, like you said.
Okay. So let me ask you this, because a lot of students nowadays are in school, and they more so think that getting a degree in something. So let's say a high schooler coming out of college, they more so think that a degree will make them better, and it doesn't really even matter what degree it is. Just having a degree will help them in the workforce. But what I encourage people to do nowadays is that you should get that degree in yourself first. So you should understand yourself, your mental health, and your personality, especially, and your interest, in order to figure out what you actually want to do in life, whether it's one thing or multiple. Now, what is your take on that?
Yeah, that's a really good focus, and I agree with you, because once you know what you want to do, then you can also invest financially. I mean, that's also a big part of continuing education as well, isn't it? Having to outlay the money for study, and if you don't actually know what you're doing, then it can be a lot of money to outlay.
Exactly.
However, I also do believe that education is always useful, and if people are really don't know what they want to do, but they know that they want to continue studying, I also think that they should follow that. So
okay,
I think that while education is useful, there's no harm in taking a few years break, taking a gap year. I know that it's very common in Australia to do that. I think it's a little less so in America, but if we just look back to famous examples of successful people, and Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, a lot of them didn't go to university. So I don't think that it's the be all and the end all. I think it's more important what you're doing and why you're doing it.
I agree. And that let me go ahead and stick on that subject while we're at it. Do you think grades matter for even finding success in anything? But let's more specifically talk about a career like yours, because you do hold degrees in psychology and sociology. And do you think that grades mattered for the success that you have in your career?
To be perfectly honest, I think as long as you give it your best that you have, I think that's all that matters. And in high school, I was such a high achiever. I got top grades, but in university, I was struggling with anxiety, and I found it quite challenging. And in Australia, we have this saying, I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's P's get degrees. And it's just the idea that if you pass, you get the same degree as someone that gets the top.
Exactly.
So, I think at that stage, I was struggling to get through, and I got through, but no one's ever asked me what my grades were from university, thankfully.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about the overall importance of school then, because For somebody like I mean, do you have a PhD in psychology? I didn't even ask.
I don't know. I have an honors in psychology, and then I started working within the field of psychological investigations. I was on the front line one-on-one with individuals that were depressed or anxious from the workplace, and I did that for a couple of years, and I just found that I was focusing a lot on youth and wanting to work, and I always loved writing, so I didn't actually realize that I wanted to be a writer until I kind of had gone through all those steps of psychology and so forth. So I made a bit of a shift into the field of writing and decided I could use my love of psychology and writing to create these resources. So I haven't gone on to do my PhD. It's something that I would like to do one day, but at the moment I love writing, so I'm kind of focusing more on building those skills.
Okay, great. So let me ask you something here. So I mean, we try to really align our gifts with our interests, plus like who we want to help. So how did it line up for you? More so, like, when did you realize, okay, this was I'm good at writing, I'm really passionate about helping other people find their career path, and like how did it all fall in place for you?
Yeah, if I look back when I was a kid, I mean, now it's so obvious that I loved writing. I used to write journals. I would write all the time. And I think I had this stigma in the back of my head that writing wouldn't make me money, that it was not a career that I should pick. So I kind of just didn't trust that I could make a life of that. And that very much put up a wall around that for me. So when I had a full-time job and I could just write on the side, it was a side project that then eventuated, it took off, so then I could leap into that as a full-time job. But to be honest, I didn't have the confidence to get into that full-time to start with. And I wish that I'd listened to myself a bit more and had done it earlier, but it lined up when I started following my passion and doing it in my own time. And yeah, I don't have a definite exact point when that happened, but it was about 4 years ago, 2015, when I realized that, hey, I'm thinking about this all the time. I'm doing it in my spare time. I must love it. And that sounds so obvious, but that's why I really like to encourage people that don't know what they want to do to think about what they do in their spare time and what they think about when their mind wanders.
Okay. So, what are some common misconceptions do you think that are out there right now about finding the right path for each individual?
Yeah, I think there's this misconception that we have these light bulb moments that just says, just hits you like a ton of bricks, and I realized, oh, there you go, I should be an author. I wish that it happened like that, but it was a lot more of a struggle and a lot more of, as you touched on, self-work and thinking about what I liked and didn't like about the jobs that I was in, and really fleshing through those parts of jobs that I have. So that's why experience in different fields is also so important, because you're not going to know if you like a job until you've done it for yourself. And that's why I think this podcast is so valuable, because you're hearing the insights to what it's really like, not just what you saw on a TV show, what it might be like to be a lawyer or something.
Exactly.
So I think that there's this misconception about you'll just work it out one day. I think you really have to do the work to work it out, and you have to be out there, experiencing things for yourself. So that's one. Another one is this idea that things have to be fixed and for life, and I think it's great to feel purpose, and I feel very fulfilled in what I'm doing now with my writing, but that, again, doesn't have to mean it's forever, and I don't have to stick to that. So it's easy to really grab onto something and define yourself by what you do, but I think it's good to stay open, and if something else comes up, I'm enjoying drawing at the moment. It's not going to be an artist, but
Exactly. No, it's a good hobby to have. I mean, people usually, there are some people who align their hobbies with their work, and there are some people who don't. And I think we pick up hobbies and interests as we go, as you said in the beginning, and that we must keep in mind that, there are certain opportunities to align your hobbies and values to, in that sense, with your job or with your work. And there are times when, you don't even have to. You can just say, okay, I'm going to go to work here, but my real hobbies and interests are, outside of work.
Yeah, I really like that idea as well. I saw a famous author recently, Austin Kleon, and he was talking about this in his new book, How to Keep Going. He was saying that he loves to draw and write, but he also plays the guitar, and he was saying he would never play the guitar for anyone else except himself. He has to keep that because once you start doing especially something creative like writing or drawing for other people, and the way that you do it, it kind of changes a little bit. It will always get a bit skewed because you're always thinking about how it might be interpreted or perceived, and I think that changes the way that you do something. So it's nice to have hobbies that you just do for you and for play and for fun.
I agree wholeheartedly. So let me ask you this, because again, we're both in fields of, helping others find, what they want to do in life, and helping people, find something that is really fulfilling. If not fulfilling, then if not, just something that matches themselves or their personalities, a job that helps them find, aligns that with themselves. But what are some helpful tools, books besides yours, or methods that, you think could really help somebody be on that right track?
That's a great question. I've done a lot of reading and research and in trying to understand what resources I can put out there for others as well. And some of my top go-tos, I think, what would I say now? Recently, Oprah's just released a book, what's it? The Path Made Clear.
The Path Made Clear, yep.
Which is a great book for anyone that's trying to find their path. And I was excited to see her release something on the topic as well. She hasn't done a book for a while, so she's obviously passionate about it too, so the more the better, right?
Exactly.
Something that really helped me was a book by Elizabeth Gilbert, who I'm actually excited I get to go see tonight in New York City.
Wow.
Which is a perk of being in the city, right?
Exactly.
But she wrote a book called Big Magic, and in that she very much talks about ideas coming to you. I don't know if you've seen her TED Talk on it, but that's a good little insight into creativity. And
I'll definitely have to check it out, yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I found really struck a chord in me and helped me believe in my thoughts that came to me, because you can see them as just silly or knock them away, but I remember that was something that I really found useful. I'm always on TED, watching TED Talks and hearing what other people have say. There's lots of tips on there. I'll just type in, how to find your path and to see what new ones are coming out on the topic. So I'll have to share a few others that I love with you. If you want, we can share them in show notes or something. But
of course.
Off the top of my head, they were probably the top ones that come to mind right now.
Okay. So let me go ahead and share a couple that because I'm gonna start actually reading that Oprah one next month, and I don't even personally even read them. I actually have like the Audible app on my phone, so I just listen to books everywhere I go. Now, two that I've really the first one that I really always broadcast is the one that actually just dropped like a couple months ago. It's called The Second Mountain by David Brooks. It's a fantastic book on especially in America. I don't know so much about Australia, but especially in America, there's basically a cool thing to do of, the money, having a lot of money, just a lot of egotistical stuff, a lot of material stuff. And you think that's, the key to happiness. That's what you're told growing up. However, it's really not. That's not something that's really going to make you happy or bring you joy in life. So, that book breaks down the distinct differences between, helping other people out and actually, making money, like with the differences and like what they actually affect, who you're actually helping, and the fulfillment that you get from actually helping other people instead of just being selfish and making all the money and thinking it's going to make you happy, because it's not. The second book that I'm going to go ahead and throw down on the table is one that I'm actually in the middle of right now, and it's called let me make sure I get the name right. It's called Do What You Are by, let me see here. Let me get the author. I think it's Peter. It is, I'm sorry, Paul Tieger. So that is Paul Tieger, and Do What You Are. It's basically everything that the title says, aligning your personality with your work. And it goes into the different personality types, whether you're introvert, extrovert, censor, judger, all that. And it really specifies, because you could be in the right field. So let's say you're psychologist. Let's just go for psychologist for today. And you're saying, well, let me pick a different one because I feel like that's not a very good one. But let's say you're in the healthcare field and you really want to help people out, but you don't really like the, sitting in a chair all day and not really talking to new people, but you really like being back there in a doctor. It's the same field, but you might have a different personality type where you want to do something different in that field, that really better suits your personality and gives you more joy. So Do What You Are and The Second Mound are two books that I highly recommend. And of course, the 3-book series, the Finding Your Path books by Amba Brown. Of course, they're great books and everybody should check those out because I actually know that they're easy to read. They're colorful. I think, can you name the person who, illustrates all those pictures?
Yes, absolutely. Her name is Diana Chirilis, and she's a Swedish graphic designer, and she's very talented. So they're quite quirky, and they've got a different feel, but a very distinct and playful tone. So I love the colours and design that she's used.
Yes. So, and again, those are outstanding books to read as well. Pick up again. I'm probably only about 2 months in, so I'm not very, I don't know every book yet. I haven't picked up every book. I'm trying to pick up every book, but right now I'm just doing one at a time. So,
that's awesome. Yeah, I'll write them down. I'll definitely check them out as well.
Yes.
I was thinking just quickly is Jack Canfield, The Success Principles. He talks about, just touching on when you were talking about success, and you're right, it's different for everyone, but he has a lot of principles in it that really just instill that belief in yourself and moving forward. I guess that's once you find something that you're interested in, then, as you know, then the next step to getting that out into the world and actually flourishing within that field is the whole next step. Once you've actually decided on it, right? Exactly.
Yeah. So, using your gifts, and again, utilizing your gifts in order to give the best, fulfilling effort for yourself. Now let's talk about, because I did, when I was talking about the second mound, I touched on something that I want to dive into a little bit. Again, I don't know how it is for Australia. Can you really, explain to me the scene? I don't really know the environment of Australia, but, me growing up in America, I know the environment of, having, just doing the cool thing instead of doing what actually, makes you, when you're a kid, I think anywhere, in order to fit in, you'll make sacrifices of yourself, do something that doesn't really make you happy or do something that really isn't you in order to fit in with the crowd. But that really might not be the right thing for you. So let's talk about leaving high school and going into college and just doing the cool thing. So I actually interviewed a teacher who said that, straight out of going his first year in a college, he said he majored in sociology because being a teacher just wasn't the cool thing to do. What's your take on that?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that social pressures influence what you decide to apply for at university. And as I mentioned, I did get quite good grades in high school, so I felt like I had a lot of choice, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I thought I should just pick something with the high marks, just because that's just stupid, right?
Yeah.
And as I didn't know, I decided to take a gap year, and that was what a lot of people did as well. So it was quite common there. I felt safe in doing that. It felt like the right thing to do. I did it with my best friend, and then when I went into university, I just did this course that pretty much did sociology, psychology, and Spanish, and I took on just way too much than I could handle, I think. I ended up having to drop Spanish. But, I was very much just doing it because I felt like that was a good thing to do. It was less about what I actually was liked at the time. So I would agree with what you're saying there. And I think generally it's hard to escape the social vacuum that you sit in, isn't it? Your parents' pressures, teachers' pressures, what your friends are doing, especially if you don't know what you want to do. And obviously there's people that do know what they want to do, and lucky them, and that they should follow that, absolutely. But if you don't, you're just bouncing off what others are suggesting. And
yes, big time. And again, I have audiences around the world, but a big thing for youth, especially that I would encourage doing, is deleting social medias for just 1 month. Even if you just delete the app off your phone and just put it down for 1 month, it will make a huge difference. Because anywhere you come up from, social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, it doesn't matter. You're really comparing. It's really competition. It feels like when you pick up that phone, people are posting pictures of what they have, talking about what they've done. And you're just comparing yourself like, you're getting down on yourself. Oh man, I haven't done this yet. I don't have that. I don't have this. I wish I had this. And you're just doing everything just to show it off, is what it feels like. And I actually had, my account disabled for about like 3 months or something like that. And I always tell my friends, those were like the best 3 months of my life when all it was deleted, because you can realize that you're, one small person, and you gotta love yourself first. Again, the main topic of everything, the whole entire discussion, is loving yourself, not the idea of somebody else. Like, oh, I want to be like whoever. You gotta want to be like yourself first. You gotta love yourself. You gotta know who you are, and you gotta, find the career path that will most tailor to your gifts.
Not agree more, and I'm really glad you brought up social media. You're right, it is such a huge part of life now, and it wasn't around when I was finishing school, thank God.
Exactly.
But I do watch my younger brothers and sisters, and they're on it a lot, and I've actually done a similar thing to you in just restricting my own use, because I noticed that it was just eating away my time, and as an author, I have to manage my time, and I can just get, the day can get sucked away, which is not productive. So I actually only go on it one day a week now. I call it my Tune-In Technology Tuesday, which is today. And I just only go online on Tuesdays, because otherwise, I waste time. I don't like how I feel when I'm on it. I feel like my relationships weren't authentic on there. So, and, I've studied psychology. I know all these things, but it still affects, it affects everyone. So I can only imagine how it's affecting the younger people.
The youth. And I'm so happy you said that, because the youth definitely gets sucked into it. It's like a drug. It's a dopamine drug of, having that notification. Oh, somebody liked my picture. I must be cool now or something. I don't, and it really is like a drug. I'm happy that you're off it, a lot. I didn't really need to get off it. The only reason why I'm on it right now is because I have, the podcast, but it's really, really, really important that people take the time out and understand that the phone is like a whole completely different world, like an egotistical world if you have social media. It's a tool just like any other tool. A gun is a tool too. You can either use it for protection or you can use it for violence. And I feel like social media uses it for, that egotistical violence, or that feeling that it's just not, it's not a good thing. And you got to understand that the real world, which is outside of your phone, is very, giving, very, you gotta, it's a completely different world, and it's a better world out there. So put the phone down, guys, is what I'm saying. Put the phone down and really,
Today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they have shown a lot of studies coming out now, a correlation between youth depression since the increase of phone usage. I mean, it's shown everywhere, and I know this whole episode isn't about social media, but since we're on the topic.
It's primitive. It's primitive that we talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, and let's go ahead and wrap this interview up. It's been a great interview. And again, this is what I wanted it to be. We didn't ask the normal questions today because, again, we're both in the same industry, and we really wanted to touch on topics that would really help you out. The whole podcast is for finding the right path, and her whole author journey is for finding the right path. So we really wanted to align our talents today in order to give you guys the best advice to find that path. Now, go ahead and tell me the website that you have for your books and just for anything, because I really want to get your stuff out there as well for the audience listening today. And we're also going to list those books that we mentioned down in this description below. The what do I call those things though? The podcast notes right under. So we're going to leave all the books, her website, and go ahead and tell us your website, Amba.
Yeah, you can find me at findingyourpathbooks.com, and all the links to my different social media are on there, or my email, and yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Get in touch.
Yep, so. as well as her TED Talks and all that. So she's very, very prominent in the community of finding your own path. So make sure you check Amba out. Find your pathbooks.com, right?
Findingyourpathbooks.com.
Findingyourpathbooks.com. And again, everything's going to be in the description below, the episode notes. We got all that for you. And Amba, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for another great episode. I know people were excited to have you today. You shared some important information, and you definitely got to send me a copy of one of those books, because I need to get my hands on one of those. I'm only 2 months in right now, podcasting, so your boy ain't making no money off it. So I need one of those books though.
I will do. Thanks, Joe, for everything you do. It was great chatting.
All right, great. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Wait. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube, iTunes podcast, SoundCloud, and Google Play channels at YI Network. And make sure to follow us on all social media platforms at YI Network. That's Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, all that. And if you or somebody you know loves their job and would like to inspire others too, make sure to email me at whyimpassionate@gmail.com. Again, whyimpassionate@gmail.com. Talk to you guys soon.